What in the world are you thinking?
Mean Gene, the first thing you need to do is to tell these people to shut up if you want to hear what I gotta say.
I have been with you for so many years. For you to join up with the likes of these two men absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. And I think that these people here and a lot of other people around the world have had just about enough of this man, and you want to put yourself in this group? You've got to be kidding me.
Well, the first thing you gotta realize, brother, is this right here is the future of wrestling. You can call this the new world order of wrestling, brother. These two men right here came from a great big organization up north, and everybody was wondering who the third man was. Well, who knows more about that organization than me, brother?
I've been there, I've done that. You have made the wrong decision, in my opinion.
Well, let me tell you something. I made that organization a monster. I made people rich up there. I made the people that ran that organization rich up there, brother. And when it all came to pass, the name Hulk Hogan, the man Hulk Hogan, got bigger than the whole organization, brother. And then billionaire Ted, amigo, he wanted to talk turkey with Hulk Hogan. Well, billionaire Ted promised me movies, brother. Billionaire Ted promised me millions of dollars. And billionaire Ted promised me world caliber matches. And as far as billionaire Ted goes, Eric Bischoff and the whole WCW goes, I'm bored, brother. That's why these two guys here, the so-called outsiders, these are the men I want as my friends. They're the new blood of professional wrestling, brother. And not only are we gonna take over the whole wrestling business with Hulk Hogan and the new blood, the monsters with me, we will destroy everything in our path, Mean Gene.
Look at all of this crap in this ring. This is what's in the future for you if you want to hang around the likes of this man Hall and this man Nash.
As far as I'm concerned, all of this crap in the ring represents these fans out here. For 2 years, brother, for 2 years, I held my head high. I did everything for the charities. I did everything for the kids. And the reception I got when I came out here, you fans can stick it, brother. Because if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, you people wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff would be still selling meat from a truck in Minneapolis. And if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, all these Johnny-come-latelys that you see out here, wrestling wouldn't be here. I was selling out the world, brother, while they were bumming gas to put in their car to get to high school. So the way it is now, brother, with Hulk Hogan and the New World Organization of Wrestling, brother, me and the new blood by my side, what you gonna do when the New World Organization runs wild on you? What you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Don't touch me, I've got a fleet of lawyers.
All right, back once again for part 3 of our Essential Hulk Hogan matches, and we're going to be looking at a really pivotal time in Hulk Hogan's career. It's his run in WCW from 1994 to the year 2000, and boy, have we got a lot to talk about in this episode. And who better to have discussing this with me once again is Andy from Grappling with Canada, who joined me for episode 1 and 2. So you might as well make it a three-peat, my friend. How you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me. It's much better than having 3 strikes and I'm out of here. So I'm thrilled that we can do a part 3 and look at some incredible Hulk Hogan matches. Some Yeah, some maybe will not be that part, but yeah, I'm very excited about this.
Perfect. So we're going to discuss, as I say, after Hogan leaves WWF, we had a bit of a break for Hulk. He didn't just jump from WWF into WCW. He went off to Hollywood and was doing his movies and his TV shows, and that's kind of what greased the wheels a little bit for Hogan to enter WCW, as he was down in Florida area filming Thunder in Paradise, I believe, at that time, was it not?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so he was near Universal Studios, which of course is where WCW was shooting a lot of their programming. Now, we're talking to WCW at that time that was coming off a few lean years. We had gone from the Jim Crockett Promotions era of the NWA and really WWF's strongest competitor in the 80s to all of a sudden there's a bio by Ted Turner and the Turner Sports Organization. And Turner, a massive wrestling fan, wanted to finally see WCW make a charge, I guess, at WWF at the time. Started investing a lot of money into WCW. And I mean, we're talking, they had some really, really lean years in the early 90s, although they had some great names and great stars. Were you following WCW at that time, Andy, like during the 90, 91, 92 era of WCW?
So at the time, that it was completely off my radar. Again, here in Winnipeg, the television experience was quite limited, we'll say. But as I've gone through the years, and especially with the Grapple with Canada program, I've gone back in time to look at a lot of what was going on in the early 90s. I know, you'll hear historians like Jim Cornette, for example, will talk about, that 89, 90, 91 was still kind of in that hot zone. And then it really took a nosedive, and you really see it in the programming. And it is interesting to, just with your comment about, the state of the union or lean years, like we're talking about, they're renting sound stages and putting shows on in front of winos. And I'm not being facetious about that.
Yeah.
At the Universal sound stages, like it was not good. They killed their entire road traveling schedule. It was not good.
It wasn't. Now, I was watching at that time. There was, like I say, there was some good stuff going on. You had people like Steve Austin there. You had Brian Pillman there. You had the Hollywood Blondes. You had Austin's feud with Ricky Steamboat. You had Rick Rude was there, and a prime Rick Rude at that time. He finally got a world championship, I guess you could call it that. Sting was putting on some great stuff. You had Vader, at that time. But there was just something not clicking for some reason. And now this, at this time period, it's like they had all these big names, but there was almost like a stench, if you know what I mean, like yes, on them, absolutely. Right? It's kind of like, and I don't want to like crap on anything today, but it's kind of like what AEW is going through right now. No matter what they do, there's kind of like a little bit of a stench, and it's like they might be making a comeback, but it's just fans aren't on board yet, so they need a real shot in the arm, and that's what AEW I feel like needs right now, like a Roman Reigns to come over or something like that. Well, WCW finally did get that. One, they brought over a guy by the name of Eric Bischoff, and love him or hate him, he certainly had an impact on the wrestling business, especially for WCW. And number two, they started opening up the checkbook and signing some stars from WWF. Now, granted, these are stars that were aging out in the WWF, and I think Vince McMahon probably thought they were past their prime, but we soon found out they were not.
Definitely not in some instances.
But what they did was they brought name value, and they brought that professionalism to WCW. Took a while for it to turn around, but it certainly did eventually. But they signed guys like Mean Gene Okerlund, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jesse Ventura. They got Macho Man Randy Savage, which was massive,
huge
deal. Massive. Because you want to talk about professionalism, bringing it to the product. There you go. This guy's just a workaholic, that's going to do whatever it takes to make that product be great. And then they brought the big gun in. They brought Hulk Hogan. And I don't know about you. I was watching at the time. I was watching WWF. I was watching WCW. And this was kind of groundbreaking and mind-blowing, the fact that Hulk Hogan got signed by WCW. We had heard rumors of it possibly happening, but I don't think any of us WWF fans really thought that would happen. It just didn't seem right. It didn't feel right that Hulk Hogan would go to WCW. We knew that Hulk Hogan had left WWF with kind of a bad taste in our mouth, I guess, from the steroid trial, and two, from just kind of the way things went out as far as Hulkamania. It really kind of gone downhill for that towards that end period. But I think us as wrestling fans, we thought eventually Hogan was going to be back in WWF. It was just, it was kind of like a go and learn a new hold type of thing, right? Even if you are the biggest name in wrestling at that time. But when Macho Man Randy Savage ended up on screen on WCW, that's when I kind of said to myself, there's something going on here. There really is something going on here. And it just upped their game all of a sudden. And then the Hogan signing, which was just mind-blowing. So any thoughts on the Hogan signing from your perspective, Andy?
Well, there's two important parts that you brought up, which I think we should zero in on a little bit before you get any further. So number one is the professionalism that these two individuals, especially with Macho Man, right? He was this is after Vince McMahon essentially put him out to pasture.
Yes.
Because he was past his prime, right? Gets relegated to
way too soon.
Oh, what a short-sighted, and I mean, this is obviously we're not doing a Randy Savage episode.
We will eventually.
If possible, I can weasel my way into that. I'd love to.
Yeah.
But so the professionalism was a big thing, and the marketing was the second thing that they really brought. Because let's be honest, and this also ties into AEW currently. They have no idea how to market their stars. WCW at that time had no idea how to market their stars.
Yeah.
They had no infrastructure in terms of merchandising. They had no infrastructure in terms of third-party booking. They had no infrastructure set up in terms of spotlighting individuals, television, getting them on radio programs. Save for when Jim Ross used to run his radio show out of Atlanta. But I mean, all you're really doing is serving the Atlanta market. They're not getting on Good Morning America. They're not getting on
Arsenio Hall or something like
anything.
that. Yeah.
They're not getting on. What's his name? His last name is King, and it's escaping me right now. He did the talk show.
It's on CNN. It was Larry King.
Yeah. Larry King, yes.
Yeah.
Like they weren't getting so it wasn't there. And so what happened when Macho Man came in, he brought that credibility, but he also brought that mindset of, okay, here's where we need to branch out, right? Yes, I'm Macho Man, but we need to build on what I can be for this program and this product. And then you really saw that with Hulk Hogan when they did I know people will call it the Tinker Take Parade through the soundstage. And I mean, looking at it from today's eyes, it looks, cheesy and whatever, kind of the point, but also the bigger point was, here's a star we're actually going to market our talent. And that's where that direction started to shift with the signing of those two.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that ticker tape parade and the whole, I don't know, pop and circumstance you want to talk about when they brought Hogan in, but it made it feel like they all of a sudden jumped to the big time with that. It was kind of, it wasn't necessarily WWF-esque, but it just felt a bit bigger. And one of the things that, ironically, of that whole parade and bringing Hogan in and stuff like that, what I noticed, probably looking at it at the time, but also when I look back and I see video and clips from that stuff, is if you remember, they also had a press conference where it was Hogan, Mean Gene, Macho Man, and Sting. And that was important because all of a sudden Sting looked important. And to wrestling fans, Sting was important, but to the bigger world, nobody really, like you mentioned, the Larry King world, the major media world, Sting was not a big deal. But all of a sudden you got this guy who, when he's sitting there with the bleach blonde hair and the cool look and that, you realize this guy's big time too. And he's sitting there with Macho and Hulk Hogan. Okay, let's check this out. What's going on with this stuff, right? So that's another big aspect
right.
for it. Yeah.
100%. And again, you get these two who have experience with that. Now Sting is actually able to be spotlit, it's the proper way to say it, for a national audience, right? Again, WCW is also trying to shake off the Southern stink at the same time, right? There's a whole lot of factors that are going on against them, and they're kind of slowly crawling their way out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, to our friends in the States and in the Southern States, we don't have a problem with the Southern thing. I love old school Southern wrestling, I think. But as I say, they were trying to look national. They were trying to look global is what they were trying to look. And that's immediately, as soon as Hogan and Savage show up, that's what you have. You have that global appeal. You have that global recognition. So, and it's hard to believe that an organization that was so prominent in the 80s and so tied into wrestling, but they didn't have that global appeal at that time. Now they have that. So right off the get-go. So I think for a lot of fans who weren't watching it at that time, it's almost like I think a lot of fans think just Hogan came in and it was the Bash at the Beach 96 and he turned heel and that was the Hogan era in WCW was the NWO run. But no, there was a period long before that. Hogan's first match in WCW was on July 17th, 1994 as Red and Yellow Hogan. And it was with Ric Flair at Bash at the Beach. And we're going to hear that pay-per-view a lot throughout this conversation, I think, because it seems like for some reason, a lot of the big moments for Hogan happened at Bash at the Beach. Maybe it's just the way the schedule was. Because, I mean, he had the world as his oyster as far as scheduling, creative control, all that stuff. I mean, they certainly paid a pretty penny to get Hogan in there, but it certainly paid off for them in the end. But the first match that comes to mind for me is that first match with Ric Flair at Bash at the Beach in 94. And I mean, although we did see Hogan Flair in WWF, kind of, sort of, we never really got that true one-on-one. Here's the two greatest superstars of the 80s to go at it, and let's just see what happens. And we finally got it in this setting, and it was in WCW. That was a big coup as well for me for WCW, and it was a smart move that's the first match for Hogan, because we kind of had it teased and pulled away in WWF, you know. So thoughts on the debut of Hulk Hogan here?
Well, so you said it or teed it up perfectly, right? It's time to make a big splash, figuratively and literally, being the pay-per-view bash at the beach.
Yes.
So you get the very first match of Hulk Hogan in WCW against Ric Flair. Right away, it's a spoiler alert. They do the title change, right? Hogan walks off with the belt. Kind of a twofold situation, right? Again, the thinking was, and I'm going to reference this book a couple of times today, so we may as well get it on camera here. So if wrestling fans, if you are able to get your hands on a copy of Nitro by Guy Evans, it goes into tremendous detail about the business side of what was happening leading up to Nitro, which obviously this is a part of it. But like, again, we're very early into the Bischoff tenure.
Yes.
We're before when all the big things happened, but this was really the first shot across the bow in terms of the WCW WWF we'll say rivalry, right? And again, WCW trying to get the Southern stank off them and really try to expand nationally. And how do you do that? You put the title in its first match on the most recognizable name in professional wrestling at that time, and potentially ever. And it was actually a surprisingly good match. I'm not sure if you were able to watch this one, BC.
Yeah, well, I remember it vividly from when it originally happened and watching it over the years. And yeah, it was probably one of Hogan's best matches in WCW when you look at it, because you got one of the greatest of all time that's leading you through it. And you had a very motivated and hungry Flair that's involved in this. And
yes,
and you called it right. It was very smart by them. Like, right. It's so funny because they made so many smart decisions to start off with, and then they really went downhill so quickly too. But this was a smart decision. Let's throw the title on Hogan. Let's just ride this guy right away, because we're going to do everything. As Bischoff's quoted as this many times, saying when talking about Nitro, he's talked about, I sat in my office and I decided to write down everything that's opposite to what WWF was doing. Well, this was also opposite to what WWF did, is because they never went with this actual feud with Flair and Hogan. They didn't put the belt on, all that stuff. So right away, first match, boom, Hogan wins. Great call by them.
Well, and not just that, and they still do it to this day when WWE or WWF, whatever, has the notorious distinction of every single time they get a star in, they beat them, because that was Vince's thing, right?
Yes.
Nobody's better than our guys. Whoever comes in, we beat them. It happened with Flair, right? It happened with, like, I remember Jericho. He comes in, he's got the big buzz. They kill him. Vader, same thing. He comes in, got to lose right away because only the best of the best wrestle here, and that was the whole. So it really did break the mold in terms of how presentation was happening with WCW. Interestingly enough, though, they weren't able to capitalize it because different ideas got in the way. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit further here.
Yeah. And I know, Andy, as I mentioned before, I'm going to let you take a lot of the lead on the matches, but I want to tee it up with, because until we get into the whole, NWO time, but really, there was just only a few matches I can think of prior to, but I do want to set the tone for people that it wasn't just NWO. It wasn't just that, the 83 weeks that famously gets talked about. It didn't just happen the day Hogan walked into WCW. It was still struggling. WCW was still struggling from a ratings perspective and from a buy rate perspective, but it did make a difference having Hogan there. And the two matches right off the get-go that I think of at that time are Hogan and Flair in that first one. Then the second one is the Hogan Flair match at Halloween Havoc. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it was a cage match, and I think that one of the stipulations was that if Flair lost, he retired or something like that.
Yeah, it was one of his many retirement matches.
Yeah. But again, Flair and Hogan, when I almost, as a WWF fan at the time, I was almost pissed off because what a waste. We should have saw this 3 years ago in 91 when Flair comes there. We should have saw this as the main event of WrestleMania 8 in the Hoosier Dome. We should have saw this for 3 years running that we had Flair and Hogan. We never got it. And then boom, within 3 months we had, I think there was a third match on one of the Clash of Champions. And just three great matches with these guys.
Well, it's interesting. So it was Flair Hogan for the title for the first time. Hogan wins. They have a count out for the second time. Mm-hmm. And the rubber match was the retirement match. So the stipulation was either Flair wins the title back or he's done. So that it was kind of his it was his ultimatum to get into that one. And a hell of a cage match, actually, I must say myself. And ironically, one of the few matches of Hogan's that Meltzer actually gave a legitimate proper courtesy to. 4.25 stars before the star rating was blown to smithereens, as we now see in today's wrestling. We're not going to dwell on that too much, but no, it was a great match. Both of them, they had something to prove, and the only unfortunate part is they weren't able to capitalize off it. But it did kind of set the stage for where they were going to go in the future. So it was a good stepping stone match for the company. It was a great match for them. But for the company, it was a really a stepping stone moment.
Sure, yeah, for sure. And I mean, you think about it, you gave that good of a rating for it. And we also had, Mr. T involved in that match. And, so Hogan's got a Hogan, right? He's got to have his buddies and stuff like that. But somebody else involved in that match that did their yeoman's work of contributing to it was Sensational Sherry Martel.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's a big part of that match, big part of that feud. I always loved the pairing with with Flair and Sherry. I thought it was great, you know. But yeah, again, great match. It's one that I suggest. The 3 Flair Hogan matches, I suggest people should go out of their way to check that out, because this is pre-NWO, pre-Nitro, all that stuff. You're starting to see the rise of WCW. I say the rise, I say the comeback of WCW is what we see at this point, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anything? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, please.
No, I was just going to say, was there anything else in '94 in that first year of Hogan and WCW that stood out for you?
No, that's where I made the comment of, you know, they got off to a hot start. They had the trilogy match. 4th or 3rd was the best by far. And then they went right back to Cartoon Land. And I mean,
yeah.
So you have Hogan, he's in matches, you know, against Kevin Sullivan and his stable. What was that? The Dungeon of Doom, right?
Oof, yeah.
And I mean, like, so he's wrestling the Butcher. He's with, it's just Avalanche makes a guest appearance, right? Kind of going off their rivalry back when he was Earthquake in the WWF. But I mean, Hogan was just paired with, and they talk about it in Nitro, and it's been talked about a lot of times too, but he was paired with people he was comfortable being paired with. And that was really a detriment to the company after such a great stepping stone that they could have really built off of. They take a step back with, you know, Hogan kind of reverting to his baser instincts, if you will. I also just want to mention too quickly that, I mean, you look at the perception of Hogan that he should have came in and worked a pile of matches or whatever. You look at his match count in '94, it's 25.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Nitro does a great job of explaining his contract structure, right? He essentially he would do, I think it was 4 pay-per-views. Was his contract limit, limited TVs, and then a couple of the tapings. And that's it. That's all you got him for. So it really does hurt the brand, WCW brand, that you got these few matches with him, yet you wasted on these terrible feuds, quite frankly.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Andy, because if you were to just say run through the Wikipedia, right, and go by pay-per-view, you notice, okay, so Hogan's appearing in back-to-back pay-per-views, and he's got certain feuds that he's got going on. Then it seems like he disappears for a few months, right? And then he's back again and then disappears. Well, that's a great point. Part of it was the contract that he had, where he was only required to wrestle a certain amount of matches per year. Another part of it was he was a very shrewd businessman. He knew which pay-per-views were going to do a lot of business and which ones maybe were not necessarily going to do a lot of business. And he's getting paid off the buy rate, so he's going to make sure he's showing up the ones that are going to get the highest buy rates. And also, he was also still trying to do the Hollywood thing, right? That's why he became Hollywood Hulk Hogan, but he's trying to get that movie career going or the TV career going. So he would take little breaks to go away. So yeah, they had limited time with him. It's got, if you want to, for the modern fan, it's like Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. You might as well get the best matches, best feuds you can possibly get of those guys, because you only have them for limited dates. John Cena, same thing, right? You know, we see them, throwing in a couple of matches, say like the AJ Styles one that they weren't expecting to throw in, but you got to get your bang for your buck for your guy, which they did initially in '94, and then it really kind of went sideways in '95 for them. And
yeah, go sideways in '95 is a bit of an understatement, I think, because '95, oh boy, that was a brutal year in terms of Hogan matches. And I'm like, do you want to talk about the Halloween Havoc '95?
Well, before we do, I want to point out that there is, I would say there's 2 matches, and this is sad for me to say, there's 2 matches from '95. It's just people to go out and see. Maybe you'll agree or disagree with me on this, Andy, but number 1, I'd say, is it's from February 19th of '95. It's Hogan versus Vader at SuperBrawl 5. And basically you get to see Hogan getting beat up like you've never seen Hogan getting beat up before.
Like a government mule, as JR would say.
Yeah. Vader at his finest, basically, at this time, just still the big bully. I mean, 93 Vader for WCW is probably peak Vader when he was dominating at the time and having some great matches with Mick Foley and with Sting as well. But it was interesting to see Hogan get beat up a little bit here by this big man. They have a few other matches where I think Hogan might have flexed some of his backstage power and said, we're going to limit this guy a little bit more. Yep. But do you remember checking out that match? Is it anything? Are you on the same page with me on that?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't mind that one. The finish sucked, DQ finish, but it makes like that one kind of takes the wind out of the sails a little bit. They're not going to put the strap on Vader. It's obvious at that point, you know. And like you said, 93 Vader was prime Vader in my opinion. The only other one that really sticks out to me before we talk about the Halloween Havoc one,
the bad,
would be he actually had a decent match with Big Bubba on a Nitro September 4th, 95.
That was the debut of Nitro, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So, and which brings to mind another big surprise, which was
the return of Lex Luger.
Exactly, walking out at the end of Nitro, which feeds into something that we'll get into later on in when we're talking about matches here. But so you look at 94, they have momentum, they lose it. 95, they're paddling water, to put it mildly. Now we're moving to the Nitro area. Now is where you'll start to see some things kind of change. Not 95 per se, but things times were changing in WCW, as it were.
Well, let's set the stage for that, Andy. So we have SuperBrawl, Vader. A really good match. Yes, the ending was not great, but it was just interesting to see basically a Japanese style match for Hogan, where you have this big bully. And Hogan loves wrestling big men, but he loves wrestling big men that go easy on him and will sell for him. But Vader wasn't interested in doing
neither
that.
of those.
Yes, exactly. And then we start getting into the whole. Well, I'll say this. So in '95, you still had a couple more matches with Vader. I think there was a strap match at Uncensored, if I'm not mistaken. Then there was one I look back on. I didn't think was that bad, but a lot of people were down on this. Was the cage match again? I believe it was Bash at the Beach in '95 with him and Vader. That's Hogan's forte, is the cage matches. He knows how to work those type of matches and that style and the teasing of the ending for it. So I didn't think that was that bad as well. Though again, there's lots of shenanigans and always lots of shenanigans with this stuff. But '95 got really stinky. For a while there. Yeah. I mean, you had but on the other hand, you also had, here's the Hogan effect, the Savage effect. They are doing stuff with Baywatch at this point. And that was a lot of '95 was tied into that. And they're getting on to mainstream with that. They're getting onto the Baywatch episodes and things like that. So again, it's bringing that side of it. So you got to take the good with the bad for WCW. And we're trying to just get the name out there and get them feeling like they're big time. But then all of a sudden, and it really bothers me because I look at Kevin Sullivan as like a creative genius, some of the best angles of all time throughout the 80s, just an absolute crazy psycho character that he was. But the Dungeon of Doom thing, man, that just really just tainted WCW from '95 through to early '96. And you got, like you say, you got Hogan battling Tenta, who's again another great wrestler, but you got these ridiculous gimmicks. You got him battling
stupid gimmicks.
Beefcake. You get the introduction of the Giant, who again, you have lightning in the bottle there with the Giant, but Hogan just sees it as, hey, I can just work the Andre angle again with this guy. He's going to be Andre's son instead of like, hey, we've got like one of the most athletic big men of all time that we really should be turning into a monster heel. And it just never happened that way. So '95 got really bad. So leading up to Nitro era, because the debut, like you said, of Nitro was in September of 95. And, you know, we talk about it. Bischoff's looking at, what do we do to compete with the WWF? Well, we got to go live. We got to go against them. We got to go on Monday nights. We had Monday Night Raw. And again, Monday Night Raw in 95 was not the juggernaut that Monday Night Raw was during the late 90s and stuff like that, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah. So both areas were struggling at the time. WWF is trying to build new stars, which they're slowly doing. And ironically, with a bunch of cast-offs from WCW, WCW is trying to make themselves into the biggest promotion with a lot of cast-offs from WWF, right? So it's interesting. But as you mentioned, we get the debut of Nitro in September of 95, and we get the first shocking moment, I guess the first shot across the bow, you could say, in the Monday Night War is Lex Luger.
Absolutely.
Surprisingly debuts on this episode after just appearing at a pay-per-view for WWF the night before.
So the whole thing was a coup in a couple of different ways. So first off, getting Lex, who was off contract. So there was discussions between Lex and Sting, who were great
buddies.
friends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Sting was giving Bischoff the heads up that, hey, his contract's up. Sting wanted to bring him in, but there was some residual heat, we'll say, when Lex was in WCW the first time, and him and Bischoff didn't see eye to eye. So it ended up being that Lex came in for, it was like pennies on the dollar for what he was. It's like 150 grand. And, you know, come 97, he's well on his way. But that's what it was. And Bischoff kind of got out of his own way on that one. And good thing he did, because that really started to change things. And that was, like, you want to talk about shocking moments in wrestling. I don't think people understand how truly shocking that was, because, again, he was a WWF guy at that point. I know that he had the background in WCW, but again, they were very much the regional promotion back in the 80s when Lex was on his ascent. He's on the national program now, WWF, as you know, his whole what was it, the Narcissist and all that different
and
stuff.
the Lex Express and all that
exactly
stuff.
Right. So now you're coming off that and he's coming back, and that really was, like you said, the shot across the bow, and that really perked a lot of people's ears to what was happening.
Yeah, and I will argue that probably, aside from, obviously like 87 to 89 Lex in the Four Horsemen era and stuff like that, 96, 97 Lex is probably one of my favorite runs for Lex Luger. I thought that was fantastic. Fantastic. Lex just never was a WWF guy. It just didn't work. Vince didn't know what to do with him for some reason. He tried to make him into an all-American hero like Hogan, and he wasn't that. He was kind of an asshole, to be honest with you, and that's okay. Lex would have been great as a foe of Hogan, just Lex in the black tights and white boots just going at Hogan, the new guy that's going to just take the title from Hogan. That would have worked great at a WrestleMania main event. But Lex as the Lex Express and the Narcissist and all this junk just didn't really work, with that. And then Lex I think he realized coming home to WCW, that was where he felt his comfort zone, just like that's why Hogan was bringing in all these old buddies from the old days from the WWF, because that was his comfort zone. That's what he was used to, right? And, you talked about it a lot in the previous episode, and we talked about it in regards to the AWA episode, where we said, sometimes you don't realize until after the fact when things went, when you jump the shark. Well, to me, on the opposite side of that, sometimes it takes a while to look back to see when was the real pivotal moment. Yes, signing Hogan and Savage was a pivotal moment, but to me, that Lex signing and him showing up in that first Nitro, that was the thing to me that really was the spark for WCW. And what led to people going, holy crap, we got to tune into this show, and we've got some stuff going on here.
Yeah, and it was, again, a lot of that was Eric Bischoff not only having the foresight, whatever you want to call it, to start Nitro, go live, do it differently than WWF, but also to get out of his own way, which he wouldn't do later in WCW, which led to a lot of issues, but actually got out of his own way, listened to somebody else, brought in Lex, and like truthfully, they were off to the races at that point.
How
They
big
just
did
didn't
that?
realize it yet.
Yeah, how big did that stare down at the end of that first episode between Lex and Hogan feel?
Well, that's what I mean. And
Yeah.
there is one other thing that you brought up that I wanted to quickly touch on. So you're talking about WWF missing the boat with a possible Lex and Hogan matchup. Did we not talk for an extended amount of time about how awesome it was, Hogan and Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, right?
Yeah.
It would have been very easy to I'm not saying recreate it, but use some through lines of that, pay an homage to it, really bring Lex up. But like they could have did it, but I mean, Vince was Vince, and you know, as much as I just credit Bischoff for getting out of his own way and signing Lex, a lot of times Vince wouldn't get out of his own way, and he would do, everybody's got to have a gimmick, pal.
Yeah,
that's why you had.
Lex is a gimmick.
Well, he is himself. He didn't need anything else. That's the crazy part, right? And Vince just couldn't see it.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so we're into the Nitro years now. So away we go. And again, the 83 weeks hasn't started yet, folks. It's not like it just automatically, boom, here we go.
No, it hasn't.
Now, one more smart thing that they did, that debut episode of Nitro, Bischoff was smart enough to realize that every year in that September, WWF has to postpone Raw because of the Westminster Kennel Club show. So they debuted.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Imagine them doing that these days. It would be hilarious. But he knew he had that night free. Another smart move by Bischoff at this time. I know Bischoff gets a lot of crap, and rightfully so for some things, right? But there was some smart things they did as well. And this was one of them. Let's debut this brand new show. I mean, the Mall of America setting wasn't really my cup of tea. I really enjoyed the next episode where they went to that Nitro ring setup and the look and feel of Nitro. I really enjoyed that. It just had a different presentation than WWF, and it had a different presentation to the previous WCW regime, I guess, too. But smart move to debut that. You had the stare down. And so, of course, we've got the momentum going. So, let's roll with Lex and Hulk. Let's get that going. Let's get away from the Kevin Sullivan crap and the Dungeon of Doom crap. Let's not do anything more than that. But what do? They roll into Fall Brawl. They
sure did.
On my other YouTube channel that sadly I ignore now, but Wrestling with the Truth, I put up a 2-minute clip of the neck break of doom, as I call it, where the Giant during Fall Brawl at the end breaks Hogan's neck for the second time. He broke the broken neck that Hogan had that he was wrestling with. I mean, we were at absolute schlock at this point.
Yes.
I highly suggest you don't go watch that match, but I know you're dying to get into the next match that happened, and that would be Halloween Havoc. So let's talk about the hash. Halloween Havoc 95.
Well, I will say before that, Fall Brawl definitely a well-earned 1.25 star.
Yes.
So I got one out of them.
Which got a little tidbit, you probably remember this. It was a War Games match, and it was it was Hogan's group against it was a conglomeration of the Alliance versus Hulkamania or whatever. But Hogan, the group was supposed to be Hogan, Savage, Luger, and Vader. But Vader was not on that team because where did he go? He went to the WWF. Yep. So yes, although Lex was the big coup for WCW, now we got the shot back, and it's Vader going over to WWF. Unfortunately, WWF, although they didn't drop the ball as much as they would have with Lex, they didn't necessarily use Vader to his peak either in WWF, but it was a big deal for him going over there too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great little side piece. Yeah, that's a tremendous observation. And Halloween Havoc 95. What do you say? Do you want to start with potential vehicular homicide, or do you want to go into what this is just peak silly? I mean, what I understand that they were trying to branch out and bring in theatrics and all this good stuff, but yeah, a monster truck fight and then somebody falling off a building and being okay enough to wrestle a match. Boy, this thing was a mess, just a mess.
For people that have never seen this, and there may be some people that are watching this that have never are not aware of this. The setup for Halloween Havoc was, of course, Hogan's got to avenge the broken neck a month later.
The twice broken neck.
The twice broken neck.
Yes.
So how does he avenge that? Well, he has a monster truck battle with the Giant on top of Cobo Hall in Detroit, supposedly happening at Halloween Havoc, although they did record this the night
There's some
before.
movie magic there.
But they said it was happening at the event itself live, and after a very boring battle between a monster truck sumo battle is what they called it.
Yes.
And yes, attempted vehicular homicide. And when that doesn't happen, they decide to then have a fight on the roof of Cobo Hall. And at one point, Hogan basically pushes the Giant off the roof, and to his death, apparently.
But wait,
there's more.
This is the most ridiculous thing.
The most wrestle crap moment in the history of wrestling. As if the death of the Giant wasn't enough. But so throughout the rest of the show, they're wondering, are we going to have our title match? I don't know. Maybe no.
He just got killed.
You just killed a man.
Yeah.
Maybe Hogan should be arrested and go to jail for this. But yeah, so they still decide to bring out old Michael Buffer to announce, this match that's going to happen, this title match. I don't know how, because the Giant's dead. But amazingly enough, he comes back for the match, and they don't really explain it.
Apparently, it's not the harder the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Apparently, it's the lighter they fall, and he just is alive somehow.
Nary a scratch. Nary a scratch. I would have had him soaking wet from falling into the Detroit River or something like that, but I don't know. But nary a scratch.
Sewage and whatever was happening in there.
But of course, that would be the end of the ridiculousness, right?
Oh, sure. Why not?
I'll let you explain the rest of it, Andy. I know you're just dying to. How this company didn't go out of business that night,
I have no idea. Just the most hokey. What do you say? I can't explain it.
Okay. I'll preface it, by the way, because we left a part out on Nitro for a couple of weeks prior to this event, Halloween Havoc. They had been teasing that there was this giant block of ice that was just there on set and was thawing, I guess. I don't know. Now, this wasn't Glacier, by the way, which would have been better solution.
Yeah, way better.
But
also, they never did say where the ice came from, did they?
No, they did not.
Yeah,
I think it came from
the storytelling there.
Yeah, what was it? Curtis Iakea, I think, caused King Curtis. But anyways, there's this giant block of ice, and people are wondering what the hell's in the giant block of ice. So that comes into play here. So now you can go on with this.
So it's bad enough that we're dealing with a reincarnated Giant, but the block of ice releases everybody's most favorite wrestler of all time. We had a Yeti.
No. We had a Yeti.
Yeti, yes. Like, what the hell? What do you say? Like, who? It's the famous phrase, "Who booked this bleep?" Because we're not going to swear on your program, but my God, you're correct. How did they not go out of business? And how did people must have been burning their TV sets at home. Is what you see videos nowadays when somebody's sports team loses and they're punching their TV and they smash it. I can only imagine people paying money for that pay-per-view, and that's what you get.
Yeah. So we get the debut of the Yeti, which is Ron Reese, a 7-foot wrestler with absolutely zero skills whatsoever, wrapped in gauze.
Because they didn't learn their lesson with Giant Gonzalez either.
Yes. By the way, Andy, when I say the word Yeti, okay, forget Yeti, but let's say Yeti. What do you picture in your mind when you think of a Yeti?
So in my mind, you would think about the abominable snowman from remember those Christmas cartoons?
Yeah.
So that's
Rudolph from Rudolph.
Yeah, that's what would come to mind. But somebody had a fever dream and we got the Yeti instead.
Yeah, so the Yeti in their mind, and maybe this is a Southern Yeti, I don't know, but in their mind, a Yeti, and I'm the same way. I think Bigfoot, I think Abominable Snowman, a Yeti to them was a mummy because this guy was dressed up as a mummy. He was in gauze, toilet paper, whatever you want to call it. But wait, there's more.
I can't believe we have to keep talking about this.
So, okay, maybe he comes in the ring and does a Hurricane Rana or something to make up for this ridiculous booking. But no, he comes to the ring whilst the Giant has Hulk Hogan locked in a bear hug, which is one of the more, homoerotic moves that you could possibly do. It's the most
devastating move of all time.
So what does the Yeti do? Well, he joins in on this bear hug from the other side. And they basically sandwich Hulk Hogan. And proceed to dry hump him. And this...
Oh, I can't.
Which, by the way, currently, this is ironic. Halloween Havoc is happening tonight on NXT, which I have zero interest in myself. But I guarantee you, there's no Yetis on the NXT version of Halloween Havoc tonight. But anyway,
brother, I'm crying and sweating at the same time. I can't.
I know.
Why are we wrestling fans again?
I know. Well, that's one of those moments that if somebody had walked in on watching that I would just have to go, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Like this is embarrassing, right? But they dry humped Hogan to death. I don't know. It's and that was the Yeti, and then I don't believe we saw the Yeti ever again until Ron Reese became the Super Ninja, I believe it was, and then he joined Raven's flock. Gimmick. Yeah, he joined Raven's flock. But anyways, that was I hate to subject people to this, but you almost have to watch it just for the absolute insanity. It's like almost a rite of
passage at this point.
Yeah, and I just would love to know who actually booked that.
You know what? It's funny, so I'll plug the book again. Nitro with
he's not getting paid for this, folks. But.
No, not getting paid, and mine has seen much better days, but I've referenced it and used it so many times. Surprisingly, there are several people who refuse to take blame for that match or pay-per-view in the book.
Yeah.
Chief of which is Bischoff, who said it was Sullivan, and Sullivan, who said it was Bischoff. So, I mean,
it has a Shivani feel to me, but anyways, yeah, it's just
well. Oh no, Shivani's input was the Yeti.
Yeti, and maybe that's the difference. A Yeti is an abominable snowman. A Yeti is an abominable mummy. I don't know.
It comes from a block of ice. Must be a Southern thing.
Yeah. Anyways, it's.
We really did talk about that, didn't we?
We did.
Oh,
we did.
Boy.
So let's move away from that because
let's please.
Somehow WCW stayed in business after that.
They didn't fold after that.
They didn't fold. Now, apparently that experience really sent Hogan on a spiral, because we got a tease to what we would see later on in 96 was the Hollywood Hogan version of Hogan. We got the black and white Hogan, who was battling the demons and battling the dungeon and battling his dark side. And oh man, 95 and 96 was tough, man. It was tough. But anyways, we did get one kind of bright spot in that whole time. I and you maybe skipped over this match, but I remember it was November 20th, 95. It was on Nitro, and it was Hogan versus Sting. This is when Hogan was kind of teasing this heel turn, and him and Savage were in black and white and all this stuff. So we got our first taste of a possible heel Hogan, black and white Hogan. The match, of course, ended on a run-in by the Dungeon of Doom, because why not? You know, and I don't even want to get into, we also had like the Zodiac and stuff like that at this time. But anyways, that's probably the only other good match from 95 that I can think of for Hogan is this one with Sting, which was good for a little while. And then, you know, it wasn't. But yeah, I'm not sure if that one made your list at all.
No, and it's not because, you know what, I should have went back and watched that, because that would have been their first real one-on-one together. But you know what's wild is like, if I were to just in a vacuum, right? If I were to tell you that Hogan and Sting had a match against Arn Anderson and Ric Flair, immediately what, like, just not talking about 95 in a capsule, but like, if those four individuals are in a tag team match, probably think the match would be pretty good.
Yeah.
No.
Probably would.
No, it was not. It was not good. Neither was the follow-up match, this getting into 96, early 96. So we're jumping ahead a little bit. But again, Hogan and Savage against Arn Anderson and Flair. And I mean, just, I don't know what it was chemistry-wise. It's weird because you had Flair and Hogan. They had the trilogy. Oh, by the way, Flair's back in the company. You know, spoiler alert again. He unretired and he's back. But they had the trilogy. Great chemistry, great matches. They both worked their asses off. And then I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's the tag situation or whatever. But it's like it falls apart. And truthfully, and I know we're getting really ahead of ourselves here, but Hogan and Flair were really never able to recapture that magic that they had in 94 ever again.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Hogan was at this point in a real, it was like schlocky stuff that he was doing at this point. So I think that's really what threw things up. So you've got two guys in Flair and Anderson that are the heart and soul of WCW. You know, we actually, I forgot to include this on the list, but actually Hogan and Arn had a match where Arn actually got a win over Hogan. I still remember it for just an absolutely beautiful spine buster by Arn on Hogan. But I mean, again,
I loved his spine buster.
Oh yeah. But it was just always, there was always interference going on. There was always the Dungeon of Doom hanging over. Like, the Dungeon of Doom really ruined WCW in 95. Everything was just schlocky, and it was WWF light, but not the good stuff. It was like just the worst of WWF stuff. And you got Flair, I just don't know what Flair, he just didn't know what to play right now, because he's going back and forth between heel and face, and there the Horsemen and all this stuff. You have so much going on this time. Everything's just so chaotic. It's ADHD at this point. And just Hogan was just not fitting in at this point here at 95. And you had Flair and Arn are involved in this alliance to end Hulkamania. And it's you know, and it leads to probably the final nail in the coffin of the Hogan babyface years in WCW, which is Uncensored 96, and that is the Doomsday cage match. It's literally Hogan and Savage in a 3-tiered cage against the Alliance to End Hulkamania, which is like 8 guys. And we're talking Flair, Anderson, Luger, So 3 main event guys, and then you throw in there Jeep Swenson, who's like Z or the ultimate
Z
solution.
Gangsta.
Yeah. Z Gangster, Zeus, just the Barbarian and Ming, I think. Like just
Kevin Sullivan too.
Oh, and they beat them thanks
Yeah.
to Brutus Beefcake coming out as who's now the Booty Man.
Yeah.
And he literally comes out with 2 frying pans and gives it to them in order to help beat them. And of course, who's taking the pinfall? It's always Flair. Flair's always taking the pinfall, and they win this match. And I think the fans had enough. And if it wasn't for what happens a couple months later, they were in some real serious trouble. Like if they had kept going on that path, I mean, with what they were doing with as far as the booking of Hogan, it was trouble, man. But luckily they kind of, whether it was because of Hogan's contract or whatever it was, he took a little break. I think he was going to shoot some more Thunder in Paradise or something like that. And that's what they needed at that point, because it got bad. And this gave them a little time to wipe that stink off. You had a pretty good angle going on with Sting and Luger where they're friends, but yet Luger's a heel, Sting's a baby face, but it was working. Yeah. Thoughts on this early 96 stuff that was going on?
Well, so I'll just rattle off here a few matches. So, Hogan and Ming, Hogan and One Man Gang, Hogan and Savage versus Flair and the Giant, Hogan versus Giant SuperBrawl. What was that? SuperBrawl 6.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good.
And then this the Tower of Doom match, and it certainly was every part of Doom. And it's interesting, even reading in Nitro, it backstage on the business side, they were talking about how Hogan is just, he's not worth the price of admission. Fans are openly booing him at this point. Yeah. There are fans throwing his shirts onto the ring during matches. Mm-hmm. There are fans, like, if there's just an open bitterness and hatred. And to be fair, a lot of it is warranted. I mean, you look at, again, all the goodwill that he came into the company with. We're talking within 2 years, it's gone. And to the point where even the executives are going, hey, should we look at a buyout of a contract at this point? How much term are we looking at? You got to remember that he was up for renewal in 97. Mm-hmm. So, he's looking at like 6 or 7 months. Previous to that, they're looking at how can we get out of this? How can we excise this contract? And boy, things change in a hurry. And a lot of it is not his doing, which maybe we'll get into a lot as we kind of progress here.
Oh yeah, well, we can kind of jump to that because that was kind of the last thing I had until we had the arrival of Scott Hall in May of 1996, and this changed a lot of things because all of a sudden you have Hall show up, you have Nash show up. We have, for a time period, we believe that they're still signed to WWF at this point. There's some confusion over that. It quickly got cleared up, although Bischoff was doing everything possible not to have to admit that they were not signed to WWF, but finally they actually had to because WWF was going to sue them over the use of these guys. Yeah. So we have them show up, and I'm sure it's discussed in the book that you're mentioning there, but Hall and Nash just brought this feeling of cool to the situation. But Nash is famously quoted as saying, "You let 2 guys from WWF come in and beat up your entire roster. What does that say about your roster?" Right? Yeah. He doesn't care. He's like, you know what? Hey, they're paying me as much money as possible, whatever. But he knew right away that we're not working with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon would have thought of that and worked around it. Now, would Vince McMahon have thought of the NWO angle? Probably not. But he would have definitely said, no, we're We're not having two guys beat up our entire roster.
Yeah.
That's why the invasion angle never worked later on when they bought WCW. But anyways, didn't matter. As wrestling fans at that time, we overlooked that. Let's be honest. We overlooked that fact. We just thought it was cool that these guys were coming in and they were the outsiders and they were doing this. It was different. It was different. And again, WWF was starting to pick up a bit with the whole Bret Hart thing, the Shawn Michaels thing, all that, but they weren't quite there yet. Stone Cold was starting to establish himself, but we weren't quite there yet. And then boom, all of a sudden, it's June of 1996, and there's a whole hell of a lot of stuff happening. One, we have basically the beginning of this famous 83-week winning streak for WCW, Monday Nitro over Monday Night Raw. Now, at this point, we're not looking at ratings of 9.0 or something like we saw later on in the feud, but they got their first win. Also in June of 96, a lot of people forget, but this is King of the Ring 96. This is where the famous Austin 316 speech is made, and thus began the greatest marketing ploy in the history of wrestling.
I would say second greatest.
What's your first?
Well, we're going to talk about him.
Oh yeah. Well, no, but I mean, for sales, I'm talking like that. I'd say maybe the Austin 316 shirts maybe sold more than the other one we're going to talk about here in a second, but it's debatable, whatever. But so June, things are really, all of a sudden, it's just like something clicked. May was when Hall came in. I believe it was late May when Nash came in.
Yeah.
We had the Great American Bash was when they powerbombed Bischoff through the set.
Yeah.
And we're off to the races. We have the famous, look at the adjective here. Speech by Nash. Whatever. I won't pick on him for that. And then we mentioned it before, Bash the Beach 96. There's something with Bash the Beach. This is Hogan's lucky event, I think, but it's after the NWO, they're not the NWO at this point. They're the outsiders. Nash. And sorry, I don't mean to be Bogarting this one here, but they've been dominating so far. They've been scaring the living daylights out of the WCW. They had the famous back lot incident where Nash lawn darted Rey Mysterio into the trailer. But you know what? Nobody ever talks about. That was crazy, okay? That was a crazy, cool image, but nobody ever talks about. To me, the craziest thing of that whole incident was after that, when they get in the limo and they start driving away, Randy Savage comes flying through the back lot. like at a speed, like Ben Johnson couldn't have matched that, comes flying at it, or Usain Bolt for all you young people, but comes flying through the lot, jumps on top of the limo, and while the limo is speeding away, Savage is climbing into the roof, the sunroof of the limo with legs dangling out, just like a psychopath that he is. Nobody ever talks about this. To me, that was more shocking than the actual lawn darting of Ray. But anyways, so we have chaos going on in WCW. So now we have to have the outsiders and this third man that they've been teasing for the longest time. Because there was the big man and the medium-sized man. There's going to be the third man, and they're going against WCW, which is Sting, Luger, and Savage. But there's a lot of dissension in WCW because people are wondering who's the third man. Is it going to be Sting? Is it going to be all this stuff? So I've set the stage for you. I want to let you talk about Bash at the Beach 96, because this, by rights, is probably the most, I'm going to put it out there, it's the most important night of wrestling, I'm going to say, maybe ever.
I would say so. It's the most consequential event.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only one that would come close, truthfully, would be Koloff beating San Martino at Madison Square, because that changed.
That was history.
That was history, right? this is history making for a completely different reason. You had
that changed. Oh, sorry. I'm going to let you go, but that was consequential in the fact that it changed one organization.
Yes.
This changed the entire wrestling landscape here.
Yes.
I'll put it that way.
This changed, and not
for both WWF and WCW.
But also, and maybe we'll touch on this later, New Japan as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have the Outsiders facing off against Team WCW, essentially is what it is. And who's going to be the third man? And don't listen to the dirt sheets because you'd be really disappointed. But we have
Mabel.
It's Mabel. It's got to be Mabel. So match kicks off. Luger gets injured real early, so now it's a 2-on-2. And pretty standard match. They're everybody's working hard, but the crowd is on edge, and you can feel it when you're watching it. And that's the
cool part about it.
To me, that's the coolest part about this whole event is the crowd and watching their reactions to things.
And leading up to it too, Andy, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, please do.
I want to paint the picture for people who didn't watch wrestling at this time, because it's one thing, like, when I read like the reviews of things and people go back and look at it after the fact and they'll crap on it, right? Like, well, the matches sucked or this or that or the other thing. But people don't understand, if you were watching it at that time, how different it felt at that time. Like, you can argue about Hogan's work rate and all this stuff, but there was, like you say, there was a tension in the air, especially with, as soon as Hall and Nash showed up, that changed everything. There was a tension in the air watching it on TV, because you didn't know what's going to happen now, because who's going to show up? Who's going to be the third man? Who's coming from the WWF to be the third man? All this stuff. And then there was a tension in the air because it felt so real in the way they were like vigilantes, like invading WCW. So that, I just want to set that up, because people can go back and look at it now and go, oh yeah, whatever it is, Hogan did this or whatever. But you got to understand, as a wrestling fan watching at that time, we hadn't seen something like this before.
Well, and you can even hear the murmurs in the crowd when Luger gets hurt and gets taken out.
They think it's Luger.
They think Luger's going to be coming back. Exactly.
Which made sense. That was great booking.
That great booking. And that's a piece that everybody seems to forget about, right? Again, Luger's the guy who kicks off Nitro. He comes from the company, right?
Yeah.
So when he got hurt and gets taken out, you can see in the crowd. And that's why I'm saying, like, really pay attention to the crowd, because there's people looking like, oh, it's him.
Yeah.
And you could, when he's hurt, there's a lot of fans getting excited, not because of the injury, but because they think it's him, right? They think they've solved this thing.
I'll add in one more thing too, Andy, because I should have mentioned this too. Savage, leading up to this event, did such a great job playing this psychotic guy who's not trusting anybody. He's not trusting Sting. He's not trusted Luger. He doesn't trust Hogan. He's not trusting anybody. And this also played into it, because now he's been not trusting Luger, and now Luger gets hurt. So you're thinking it's Luger. It's Luger, right? Savage was right all along. So there's so much. This is one of the most well-written parts of this whole angle too. Yeah.
And so the match continues. It's a fairly pedestrian match, because it has to be. You can't have this is the other part that people don't seem to realize, right? You can't have a match where all four guys are going 800 miles an hour and there's a bunch of weapons in there and glass and tables, and you can't do that, because it takes away from the suspense that's building towards the reveal, which ends up being Hogan is coming out to the ring.
Whose side is he on?
Whose side is he on? I hate that line. I know that it was said in, and again, I've referenced it 1,000 times tonight. Take a drink every time I reference the Nitro book, which, again, if you get your hands on it, highly suggest you pick it up. So there'll be a couple of inebriated people at this point tonight. But
Andy's pseudonym is Guy Evans. But
yeah, there it is. Yeah. But when Bobby Heenan makes that comment, you got to go into their history.
Yes.
Right? Where he never trusted him.
Yes. And people crap on Heenan for that, but Heenan was playing into his whole history with WWF and all that. Because Heenan never supported Hogan when he was bad either.
Ever.
He still thought he's like, see, I told you all along. He was a piece of crap. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's brilliant. I know people hate it. I love it because it's Heenan.
Yes,
you would expect him to say that.
Yeah.
And then Dusty Rhodes plays it straight as an arrow. Tony Schiavone straight. And Hogan gets in and he chases the outsiders out. And there's one of his best friends, his very best friends in the ring. And he drops the leg on him. And the fans are in absolute, you could hear a pin drop.
And you know one other thing about that? They discarded the referee before that. So they never actually got the 3 count on Savage.
That's
which
right.
Protects Savage a little bit. And it just goes to show the match didn't matter. It's the moment. It's like you say, you can't have the Tupelo concession stand brawl and then do this reveal, right? You got to have just this basic match. So, yeah.
But yeah, it just drops the leg. The outsiders roll into the ring and they're celebrating. And I've never seen anything like it to this day. I mean, yes, we've all seen the ECW stuff, you know, all the chairs in the ring. That was cool as shit too. But this was like nuclear heat. It's
the one where Cornette talks about it a lot, where it's almost like the sound just stops for a second. It's that white hot that just everybody has, like, it's like everybody catches their breath for a second and go, what just happened here?
Yeah.
And then it just boom. It's the ring is littered with garbage. There's just
fans
everything.
are hitting the ring too, and you don't see it on camera.
Yeah.
I think you see one
you do
that they catch, but there were several fans hit the ring.
That's heat, baby.
Garbage everywhere. And then Mean Gene comes in and truthfully the rest is history. What a spectacle. The whole thing, it changed everything.
Yes. So it's so funny when I hear people say, oh, the Cena heel turn's the greatest heel turn in the history. Are you kidding me?
Not even close.
Are you kidding me? It's not even close to this.
No.
This is just, and I know we set it up with the fact that Hogan, it's not like he was at the peak of his popularity here. That's the one thing about it. But it's still, you weren't expecting this. You weren't expecting this. And what it did is it took a guy who the fans really lost faith in and turned him into the hottest heel in the wrestling industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to belabor this point either, but just how everybody played their roles to perfection, right? The commentators were perfect. Even I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of Schiavone.
No,
I got to say he did an excellent job there. Mean Gene in the ring doing the interview was awesome. How could you do this? And just the complete indignation in his voice and just how he carries the gravitas and everything. It was pure magic.
It was perfect. It really was. Yeah.
And, even, again, I'll reference the book, but Bischoff said it himself 100 times in podcasts or whatever, but he had a ticket in the highest part of the building to watch that because he wanted to feel it. And it was shaking the rafters, like, and you could believe it. Like, I mean, you just watch it. And I mean, the fans were just absolutely incensed. And nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming.
No. And afterwards you're like, what the hell's going to happen here? Right? Like, what is, and the other thing was you can say, okay, yeah, like compare Cena heel turn. What did the fans do as soon as that happened with Cena? What did they do? Did they storm the ring? Did they throw garbage in the ring, or what did they do? They cheered.
They cheered them. Yeah.
They cheered. They got what they wanted. They got the Cena heel turn. They finally got it. They cheered. They had no sympathy for Cody whatsoever. They cheered. And then they forgot about it a month later.
Yeah. Yeah. And
the Hogan heel turn, they were incensed with this. It's not like they said, "Oh, thank God he's finally turned bad. We want him to turn bad." No. They were incensed. Now, that being said, at that moment, you're like, "What's going to happen here?" Like you were like, "This has changed wrestling, right?" Now, unfortunately, they rode the wave of the cool heel, and that also changed wrestling as well, and not in a good way. We're still suffering from the cool heel, but for the first couple of months of the NWO, it was magic. It was magic, and then they started getting bloated, and they started adding people and all this stuff. You had the cool heel stuff. Hogan was really getting used to being a heel again too, and I think I don't know how you want to handle this. So like honestly, like I'd love to say from that time on, you know, there was match after match after match that you must go see because they were so awesome. No, actually, there wasn't. There wasn't. Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I was just gonna echo that. I mean, you look at the match listings from Bash on, and it's, you know, Hogan Giant at Hog Wild is not a good match. Hogan Flair, again, they lost that magic. It's not a good match. You had the NWO versus essentially the reformed Four Horsemen. It's not good, right? Hogan and Piper, the infamous TKO, right? Not a good match. Hogan didn't want to lose his win, or however you want to go through that. I mean, there's for as hot as the NWO was, Hogan's part in it was just not match-wise. I'm talking about match-wise, was just not good. There's just nothing good about it.
Here's where Hogan shined in this. It wasn't about the matches. Where Hogan shined, and I think this goes along with the whole Bischoff thing that he talks about. He didn't care about the pay-per-views. He cared about the TV. He cared about the ratings, getting ratings. That we want to win this war. Where Hogan shined was when he came out on the interviews, when he came out on the microphone, when they had beatdowns, when they had spray painting people, when they did everything. Like you mentioned, like I wrote down Hogan versus Giant from, was it Hog Wild, Road Wild? What was that called?
That was Hog Wild.
Hog Wild, okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, not a great match, but what was memorable, so here you go. You got memorable things about this, right? There's supposedly 48 5-star matches every AEW pay-per-view, but I don't remember any of those matches. But I do remember this moment. That's at Hog Wild. That was the first time that Hogan spray painted the belt.
Yes.
And put the NWA. He desecrated the belt. They spat on the belt. They did all this stuff, right? That's a moment.
Because it was their belt now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a moment. They had the takeover of Nitro where they destroyed the set and spray painted the set and stuff like that. They had members coming into the NWO. It was all this. Hogan was just masterful on the microphone. You know, he really was. He was selling the events. There was moments on TV. You got that. The matches, unfortunately, the pay-per-views didn't line up. The other one that I wrote down was the Halloween Havoc match you referred to, I think, was Hogan and Savage.
Yes.
Again, it was Hogan and Savage. It was okay. It wasn't their best. But you had Roddy Piper debut in WCW at the end of that match, right? Another moment that was going on. It led to, as you mentioned, that Piper match, which was not great. And because you had two guys that didn't want to lose.
Yep.
And so we had to have a non-title match at Starrcade because of it, which is absolutely insane. But there was moment after moment after moment on TV. And the other thing that was going on that we cannot dismiss is because of everything that happened with the NWO. What did they introduce as one of the team members of the NWO? NWO Sting, right?
Yes.
And where everybody thought Sting had turned on WCW, which he hadn't. But it led to one of the most iconic characters in the history of WCW, in the history of wrestling. You got the Crow Sting.
Yeah.
The brainchild of Scott Hall, who was a genius when it came to wrestling. And you now had Sting become more popular than he ever had without wrestling a single match and just standing in the rafters for a year. I mean, this is when wrestling turned from wrestling to soap opera and to movie and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
And that's the effect that Hogan and the NWO had on the business. Now, there was the cool heel side, unfortunately, which we've never recovered from. You know, we now, every heel wants to be a cool heel, and you can't have that. But to me, that was the influence of the NWO and Hogan through that time period. The matches themselves never really got there for me. Now, that whole Sting situation, or actually, do you want to talk on Sting for a second here before we go to Starrcade?
Well, so we can. There is one match that happens before.
I know what you're thinking. Our buddy Lex.
Yes. So
Yes.
Can we talk about that quick?
Yes, for sure. I have that on the list. That's a great moment on
Okay.
Nitro. Yeah.
And we can also talk about the follow-up, which was not.
It was terrible, yes.
So,
but again, this goes back to, as I said, 96, 97 Lex, probably one of his best runs of his career.
So after the bash, when he was injured, Lex started getting real hot.
Yeah.
And it was all organic. It wasn't because he was getting a super push or whatever, although that ended up happening, culminating with what we'll talk about right away. But Lex was getting hot organically with the fans, and they were really, really, really behind him, which culminates in a match on, what was it? August 4th, 97 on Nitro. And so it's Hogan as the champion, Lex as he is white hot. Everybody's going nuts. And I'm not sure. Have you watched this match?
Or... Oh yeah. I remember watching it live. Yeah, Hogan had been champion. I think it was 359 days or something like that.
Yeah, just hook, crook, whatever. Nobody could beat him. Didn't matter. And so we have this match, and just the way Hogan comes to the ring too, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna walk over him. He's playing the guitar, just classic heel Hogan, right? And but this match was incredible. Both guys worked their ass. The
atmosphere was incredible.
Was nuts. It was almost as loud as the bash when everything went down, and carried through, and they both worked, and man, they just worked their asses off. Like, Hogan looked good. He really looked good. Like, he came to work, right? Lex was just a machine the whole match, and then culminates with Lex getting Hogan in the torture rack. The only thing I didn't like was he tapped right away, kind of whatever, but the match was awesome. Like, all power, hard hitting. We had a little bit of interference, right? The classic NWO run in. Luger just one punches everybody. Everybody flops over to the ring. Savage, I think, does a tremendous time. Just, he gets hit and he does like a backflip and like flies over the top rope somehow. Just great stuff. But Lex was the perfect time to do it. And he wins the belt. The place goes nuts. And it was one of the best television matches of that era. Honestly,
100% agree with everything you're saying. It was the hottest baby face against the hottest heel. Very simple formula, right?
Yeah, and again, Lex wasn't hot because they forced him to get hot. He was hot because the fans wanted it, and that's why, like, a week later, it's just like, okay, here we go again. It's back to regularly scheduled programming at, what was that, Road Wild? Yeah. So, and again, it's just all the goodwill, you just evaporated. I don't really think Lex got hot again when he was in the red and black Wolf Pack. But I mean, that was kind of the end of his big aura, and they just kind of killed him. It was really
NWO aura was pretty much gone by this point too, right?
Yeah. Really started. This is when they were injecting 800, or they were starting to inject 800 members in there. But it was just that was really the end of the Lex, and he could have carried it. But Hogan had to get his win back, I guess. That's how they explain in the book. Whether that's entirely true or not, I guess we'll never really know. But just a shame.
Hogan knew when to pop a moment too, right?
Yeah.
He knew when to, like, we'll talk about it later, but also the Goldberg moment. He knew it was time to pop a moment as well, so he knew it. But let's pontificate a little bit here,
Please.
Andy, on something, because you think about that. The reason Lex got so hot, one, they booked him strong, but without being superhero. I think it's just because he was kind of the last babyface they had, so they had to book him strong. You know, the other babyface that the fans really wanted was up in the rafters. He wasn't wrestling, so they couldn't do anything with Sting. So you had, like you said, you had your hottest white hot babyface against your hottest heel. Perfect formula. I think, probably maybe a booking decision that, if you go back, that probably could have worked and helped a lot. You keep the strap on Luger. You still do the angle with Sting. Now you have Hogan without a title going against Sting at Starrcade, right? Because that's what the fans have been wanting. But you don't have to get the title involved in there. Keep the title on Luger. Have him battle Hall. Have him battle Nash. Have him battle Savage. All these guys from the NWO. Keep him as your champion. The fans are behind him. Have Sting now come down from the rafters. He's helping his buddy Lex out. And he gets to battle Hogan at Starrcade. And you don't have to have the title in there. You don't have to have Hogan wanting to have creative control over that. You just have Hogan lose to Sting, which the fans have been dying for. And you have Sting be the vigilante, because why would a guy that's been sitting in the rafters for that long care about winning the title and being the face of WCW? If you wanted to be the face of WCW, he would have battled them from the get-go. Luger could have been your face of WCW, and then have Sting just clean out the NWO.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that booking as opposed to what they did?
Yeah. Like, I think I've said it, but I absolutely hated that they just 5 days later, Luger, they take it off him, and
they castrated.
It's a big miss. It's a big miss. Yeah, like I said it, and I'll say it again. Like, he never recovered. He was never ever as hot as then. And I'm not saying that he should have ran through the NWO or whatever. He could. I mean, you could have played it that way. And
you can transition it onto Hall eventually, right?
Or
not Hall, onto Nash, like they wanted to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you could have ran him. Oh boy, you could have ran him against. You could have had the cruiserweights come up to challenge him. You could have. There's a bunch of ways you could have gone about it. I mean, to armchair book, that would be whatever, but. It was a missed opportunity. I do love your suggestion that, then you could have had Sting and Hogan sans title, and it still would have been something that the fans wanted to see.
Oh, yeah.
Again, and I'm sure we'll talk about that fiasco too.
That's up next. But I'm just saying, you could have had Nash take the title off of Luger at Starrcade 97. And then had the main event be Hogan Sting, and Sting gets the win over Hogan. The fans still go home happy in that case, because now you have Nash and Sting lined up if you want, but you also have Hogan and Nash and this happening, right? Yes. And then who's Hall going to pick? So we start the seeds of the NWO red and black versus the NWO red, white and black, right? So I don't know, but that's just me. But I just feel like that was a big miss with Luger. He was so hot. He was hotter than Sting at that point.
Yes, he absolutely was. And they killed him.
Yeah. And then you can always do a heel turn with Lex against Sting or something, cost him like a title against Nash or something. I don't know. There's just so much you could have done. But anyway, that's 2020 looking back there.
Yeah,
but anyway. So the next thing we got to talk about, obviously, is what we didn't have happen. What we talked about is we now have, after a year of Sting being in the rafters, and what's he going to do? He finally starts coming down from the rafters. We finally have him battling the NWO, and we're leading to Starrcade 97, and it's the culmination of this year-long build. It's Starrcade 97, Hogan versus Sting for the WCW title. We even have Bret Hart involved. Bret Hart has now come over from the there's so much going on at this point. I mean, they had Bret Hart coming off of the biggest angle in the history of wrestling, really, with the whole Montreal screw job, and they didn't capitalize on that. And we just got there's so many offshoots they could have had, and they just blew it. But anyways, let's talk about Starrcade 97, Andy. Which I will say this. People crap on the ending, but the match itself wasn't horrible. It's Hogan Sting, right?
No, the match was okay, but I mean, the aura of everything was off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Like when you had Sting come through the curtain, it was just, he looked off just right from the entrance. You could, I said it with Bash at the Beach 96, right? Watch the crowd for this one too, because they didn't look convinced as a crowd, and he didn't look convincing as a challenger either, right? Like it looked like.
Can I ask you this? Do you think
go ahead.
Do you think the Luger screw job might have led the fans to be a little bit hesitant about Sting getting screwed too?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think now I'm putting my fan perspective on here. You just watched the hottest guy in the company, your champion, get jobbed like that. So you're thinking that, well, Sting's the next hottest guy that we really want as our champion. It's going to happen again. And then when he comes out, and like the match was fine for a match. It was not a championship caliber match, but I think that's not to denigrate anybody, but I just don't think it was. And you could see it as the match went on, just the fans were just not, they were just not with it. They're waiting for something bad to happen. And like that's a great point. You know what? I'd never actually thought about that. And that's a tremendous point that, maybe that Luger, maybe there was a hangover for the fans about what happened with Luger and then leading into the Sting match. That is a tremendous point. I never thought about that.
Well, I mean, one screw job too many, right? That's the thing.
And they were really in that zone too. Like this is in the era of WCW where, just like we see in AEW now, right? Almost every match has interference, or as Cornette would say, every match has an afterbirth, or nothing ever ends. There's always some shenanigans happening. This is really the era of WCW where that's what they're doing, and they're killing the crowds, they're killing their top stars, and culminates in an event like this, so to say.
Well, let's point out something else here. There's a few other factors to include too, Andy. One, so you have the Luger situation. So he wins what date did we say? It was August 4th.
August 4th, yeah.
Loses it the next week in August. Okay, fine. Now you have, throughout September and October, you have a tremendous storyline going on in WWF with the whole Bret Hart situation, with Vince McMahon, with the Hart Foundation, with Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, all that stuff. Austin. They're really, really, really picking up momentum here. You have basically Hogan and the NWO running roughshod. Like you said, there's just an afterbirth after everything throughout the next couple of months. Everybody thinks that because we're used to Survivor Series being late November and stuff like that. So there wasn't that long between Bret Hart showing up at Starrcade and all this stuff. That year's Survivor Series happened like November 6th or something like that, right?
It was earlier.
So now we have, in November, we have the Montreal Screwjob. Bret Hart is the next day available to go to WCW. They don't introduce him until a month later, like it was December when they finally bring him out on TV. So they had white hot Bret Hart coming off of this whole situation. Meanwhile, you now have the white hot heel in Vince McMahon over on WWF. So people now, their eyes are starting to go from WCW over to WWF. They're like, okay, there's some good stuff on here. But at least we got Brett. We're going to get Brett. Where's Brett?
No, we get Rick Rude talking about Brett instead.
Where's Brett? Okay, next week we're getting Brett. Nope, no Brett. No Brett. We're just NWO screw jobs. Meanwhile, McMahon is going crazy as Mr. McMahon. And oh, by the way, there's Stone Cold and all this stuff, right?
Yes.
Like we got
and
DX.
Taker's getting hot, and
DX. Michaels is just off his rocker. We finally get Brett in December, and it was just they missed their opportunity there. So now we've watched WCW drop the ball a bunch of times. Meanwhile, WWF is getting hot. Now you have a crowd that is starting to lose a little bit of faith in WCW, and you got a white hot WWF, and then you have what we have with the Sting match. And like you say, Sting was not totally into it. Things were off, but I think maybe the fans were sensing that the ball is being dropped here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because that angle with Sting seemed like a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. Like it was great. It was a great idea. But by the year's time that this is over, you've dropped the ball. And then, of course, the ending of the match with the whole, was it a fast count? Was it not a fast count? It wasn't a fast count, so I don't know what you do there. Yeah, Brett come in.
I feel bad for what's his name? Robinson or Nick Patrick, sorry. Yeah. Robinson. Yeah. What am I thinking?
Charles Robinson's the other guy,
yeah. Yeah, just because he never, and then everybody, so I've said it 100 times, everybody grab your drink, but in Nitro, they talk about how it was supposed to be a fast count. He blew it. They blamed him in the back.
Yeah.
So, even if it was, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you killed the aura before you got the match in the ring. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you said it before. Bischoff is famous for saying, you don't realize, what was it? You don't realize where you jumped the shark until long after it's happened, right? You don't see the effects of it until long after, like 6 months to a year after. And this was, I think this whole, you could argue the whole Luger thing was the beginning of this whole going downhill. Everything's a finger poke at Doom. It was long before this, right? It was tied in with that, also WWF just going absolutely bananas and on to the one of the greatest runs they ever had too, right? So, so I know we've belabored the point on this, but I think it's a very important point because this is pretty much getting to be the nail in the coffin for them. Now they have No, please finish your thought because all I was going to say was they have a couple of kickouts here and there, and we'll get to those. But thoughts? Yeah, it was. And again, you're now we move into '98, and it's the luster is really starting to fade from Hogan in terms of not just match quality, but just what they're doing with him. Yeah, it reminds me of '95 a lot, to be quite honest. It is. Let's get into this. Okay, so there's one good moment in '98 for Hogan, and it's not Hogan's moment; it's somebody else's moment. It's Goldberg's moment. I was gonna say, it's July 6, 1998, Nitro. 40,000 fans in the Georgia Dome for an episode of Nitro. This is wild. So again, the fans are still showing up, but they're on the slide right now. They did a great job. They built Goldberg up. He had the undefeated streak, although he's pretty mad at Asuka for beating his undefeated streak. Yeah. Remember that. Keeps bringing it up apparently. But so they have Goldberg. They built him up to be a monster. He's got the same look as Austin. He's undefeated. He's won the U.S. title. He's destroying everybody. He's the ultimate warrior, basically, at this point. Yep. And who better than anybody to battle a guy like this but Hulk Hogan? So it made sense. And Hogan knew it. And forget the pay-per-view. There should have been Starrcade, or it should have been Bash at the Beach again or something for him, right? But they decided to do it on Nitro because it's going to pop huge rating, which it did. It did. They should have made a fortune on pay-per-view buys. I don't know what happened there.
Well, here's another interesting little tidbit about that event. So WCW's headquarters are in Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah.
Yes. And that event was in Atlanta, naturally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where were all the Turner executives that night? They were all there.
At the event, yeah.
So Hogan knew that. He knew it 8 days out. That's when they wrote that, or that's when they booked that main event. So
that's the other thing. There was no promotion for this.
No, there wasn't. So and again, I'm not going to bring the book up.
Bring the book up. Bring it up.
Here's the book. Yeah. Grab your shot glass, grab your refill, whatever you need. In the book, they detail that once Hogan knew that there was thousands of Turner employees, including every bigwig of the company that was going to be at that specific event, that's when he went to Bischoff and pitched the idea for dropping the title to Goldberg. Idea being that he could then go and say, well, I'm still the hottest guy. I drew the house. Here it is. Completely negating the fact that the house was already drawn.
Yeah.
They already had all the fans there. And Goldberg, I think, was, who was it? He was scheduled in a match. He was gonna be the main event in a scheduled match, but it was not originally supposed to be Hogan. It was supposed to be somebody else. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but yeah, that's politics, baby, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
the ultimate politician.
Also, ultimate, and don't get me wrong, it was a tremendous match. Like Hogan worked his ass off. Obvious reasons why, but like you said, this is easily 100-something thousand buy rate pay-per-view. Easily, with no question. And instead, it's let's be honest, it's a throwaway Monday Night Nitro.
Yeah.
In the pantheon of Nitros, that's what it is. Like, that's what you kind of have to remember it as.
Yeah, and I guess we should say, so we've kind of veered off of like the Essential Hogan matches to almost like the death of WCW, but that's okay. Like this is Hogan in these years, right? And we should point out, so the famous 83-week streak that had gone on where WCW Monday Nitro had beaten Raw, it came to an end in April. So this is prior to this event. So that was the other thing. It came to an end in April, thanks to a little thing called WrestleMania and the crowning of Stone Cold Steve Austin as the WWF champion. I always love Nash's comment about that, where him and Kevin Sullivan talk about they compared it to the Titanic, right?
Yeah.
And what was it? Sullivan said to Nash in his Boston accent, we ran into an iceberg last night. Feel that? The water's getting a little cold, right? So that's the end of the streak. Now, it's not the last time that WCW beats Raw in the ratings, because it goes back and forth.
They do quite a bit of back and forth, yes.
This one obviously beat Raw in the ratings. This was a major event, but we're talking now, it's been 2 months since that streak ended. They needed something, and they got it. And like you say, Hogan was a master politician for this. But after this, man, it got bad. You had Hogan fighting with Dennis Rodman against Dallas Page and Karl Malone. Then you have another event where it's Hogan and Bischoff against Jay Leno and Dallas Page. I mean, it felt like 95 all over again. And really, what's sad about it is you have Goldberg, who's taken second fiddle to these matches on these events too. So it's just a weird run after this, right? And to be quite honest, I don't know about you, but there wasn't anything really memorable as far as a good match in this run, and it culminates with Halloween Havoc 98. And it's, you know what match we're talking about here.
Oh,
Hulk Hogan
do I?
against the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. Okay, so you really at this, and yes, we're kind of veering into a bit of the death of WCW, but
It goes hand in hand.
You can't talk about it any other way. You know, it's crazy at the same time where you have your Goldbergs, you have your DDPs. Macho Man was still, like, he was really having it himself a couple of years there, 97, 98. You know, Lex early part, but you're now starting to really sacrifice all of these guys for what purpose? And yeah, stinky matches is a term you coined previously, and man, was it just dreck. I mean, it again, I'm going to mention some names in a vacuum. Just, you know, you would think that, you know, Bret Hart and Hogan teaming up, right, against Savage and Piper, right, in a vacuum, yeah, that could be a good match. No, it was terrible. I mean, you have Goldberg and Nash as a team against Hogan and John when the NWO split was happening. What a mess that just. There's so many messes that happened in 98. It's indescribable how bad it was. And, you know, you mentioned the 6-month thing, which is apropos because, like, truthfully, you go, they killed their audience. They didn't feel it. But then once it started snowballing, that was it. And they really could never recover. And I mean, truthfully, Hogan himself never recovered in WCW.
No.
And I mean, yeah, we could talk about the Warrior match, and that whole build was the most bizarre. Like, when Warrior came out and did that 30-minute monologue, and they were trying to cut him off on air, and everything that happened there was.
It was just nuts.
Yes, it made no sense. Like, they're just out of ideas, I guess, and just grasping at. And Hogan, unfortunately, falls back into the things that he knows best from. And did you want to talk about that Warrior match?
No, I don't, because it's just embarrassing, and it was just Hogan getting his win back from WrestleMania 6. And another thing that frustrates me, because there was no need for Warrior to come back, and one of the ramifications of Warrior coming back was Davey Boy Smith getting hurt and hurting his back on a trap door that was in the ring.
Yeah.
Which led to basically his death eventually because of his addiction to painkillers, you know? So it's had such a, anyways, Warrior, you know.
But then you move on to, again, another series of Hogan and Flair matches, including that First Blood cage match where didn't Hogan bleed right away, and then they just kept the match going.
Yeah.
It was just brutal.
Brutal. Yeah.
Just everything. Just so, like, we're still in 98, or we're 98, early 99 now, and it's not getting better.
And it gets worse.
Progressively worse.
Because you have the coup de grace, let's call it that, right? It's everybody knows what it's called. It's the Fingerpoke of Doom. It's January 4th, I believe, of 1999. Yeah, January 4th, Monday Nitro, the infamous Fingerpoke of Doom. Now, I think a little too much gets put to this killing WCW. No, I don't think this killed WCW.
No.
I think the WWF killed WCW is what happened, because they just got extremely white hot. Now, on its own, the Fingerpoke of Doom was stupid, but it's an angle. And I get it. It was the NWO getting back together. They're trying to get the band back together, you know, after they had the black and white and the wolf pack and all that stuff. So I'm not going to really crap too much on the Fingerpoke of Doom. The stupid thing that was done that night was announcing that Mick Foley won the WWF title on Raw. That's what killed them. It wasn't the finger poke of doom. It was that. And people switched it.
The famous quote, "That'll get butts in the seats."
Yeah, well, it might not got butts in the seats, but it got channels to change. That's for sure. Yeah. But a lot of people don't talk about is the channel. The people went back to Nitro afterwards after they saw the Foley win. So, but that was it. That was the end. They never. I don't think they beat WWF in the ratings ever again after that night. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole situation there?
The finger poke of doom, I think, is one of these. It's just a lazy bit of reporting to say that that's what killed the company. It's not even close. It's just not an intellectually proper argument. Was it a cheap way to get the NWO back together? Yeah, certainly they could have done that as certainly a better way, but. Yeah, I think the importance of the finger poke of doom as some terrible thing, cataclysmic, whatever, is completely overblown. I just don't agree with that at all. Yeah. They did enough damage of that themselves leading up to that it didn't mean. I mean, you shocked Goldberg with cattle prods. You could probably point to that as
you point to that more than the finger poke. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was Kevin Sullivan. You killed the golden goose. That's probably a bigger one. And then just Hogan is just honestly, he's just one of the guys. He's just there. You go into 99 and it's Hogan's greatest hits, except for one match. Maybe that's not even 99, so we can't get that far yet. But it's 99 truthfully is Hogan's greatest hits. And then I don't know. I'm not sure if there's anything that you wanted to touch on specifically in 99.
Nothing in 99 for me. There's only one other thing I can touch on in WCW for me. You might have a couple more, but I mean, it goes right back to that Bash in the Beach pay-per-view once again. But do you have anything else prior to that?
No. The only one I would maybe mention is the Billy Kidman business. But I mean, what do you say? He killed Kidman when Kidman was super hot, but it's
that feud made no sense anyway. So
it didn't make any sense. Yeah. I think Kevin Sullivan was booking it, and his idea was that it would elevate Kidman into the heavyweight thing, which never made any sense because he wasn't that kind of a wrestler anyway. So you killed Kidman for what? It's the same thing like the Luger thing. You killed Luger for what reason, right? But I mean, we're in the 2000s now. It's dead at that point.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, I didn't even put the Kidman thing on my list. It's an unfortunate run. You got the only thing memorable for me, two things memorable for me from this last run is Hogan's trying to be a cool guy with his look with the jeans and the jean vest with the FUND on the back.
Yeah, the New Blood stuff. What a disaster that all was. And his haunted chair shot is
his vicious chair shot against Conan.
He almost killed him there.
He did, yeah. But then it leads to, and then it's the whole Russo years and stuff like that. And then you get to the Bash of the Beach in 2000, July 9th, 2000, and it's Hogan versus Jeff Jarrett. And this turns out to be Hogan's last match in WCW. And honestly, it wasn't a match. It was just a farce.
It was the laydown.
Yeah. And a screw job, whatever you want to call it. We still to this day don't know if it was a work, a shoot, or whatever it was. But anyways, Jarrett lays down in the ring to give Hogan the title. Hogan grabs a microphone, tells Russo this is why this company is the way it is, and ends up putting his foot on Jarrett, and they get the 3 count. He gets the title, and then immediately as soon as he leaves the building, they're stripping him of the title, and they're having a match between Jarrett and Booker T for the title. So just an embarrassing end to the run for Hogan. And it's hard to believe that they went from 96 to the hottest thing in wrestling and beating WWF repeatedly like a drum to this. This is the end, right?
Yeah, it's almost unfathomable, like truthfully, but they did it. Like, I mean, and it's crazy too. You just the complete juxtaposition of WWF's meteoric rise is wild.
Yeah.
And I'm not like WWE. Like, a lot of people look at it with rose-colored glasses. Like, there was a lot of misses on that show, but their hits far outweighed the hits that WCW was able to land on theirs.
No, completely agree. Completely agree. In the end, two things killed WCW. It wasn't the booking. It wasn't the finger poke at Doom. It wasn't the Goldberg streak. It was the fact that Time Warner, it merged with AOL or whatever, and nobody wanted to have wrestling on their books anymore. And it was the WWF got extremely hot, and Stone Cold Steve Austin became a megastar. And that's the two things that killed WCW. It's nothing to do with the booking. You can get over booking eventually. You can. I mean, it's as simple as that. But the end to the Hogan run in WCW is unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't want to belabor the point, but it's crazy. You can hit the highest highs and you're done in 4 years. That's what it is.
Yeah. All right, Andy. Well, sadly, that's where we're going to have to leave off on this episode, and it is a sad end to the illustrious Hogan run in WCW. But that's just the way things went towards the end. It fell off a steep cliff,
to say the very least. But I'm very glad that our conversation did not do that.
We're keeping the energy up here for it. But anyways, before we go, can you please tell the listeners and viewers where they can find you out there in the universe?
Sure. Well, if everybody is not too inebriated after my continued pumping of the Nitro book, you can find Grappling with Canada on all major podcasting platforms. Use that wonderful search bar. Search for Grappling with Canada. What do I always say? It's wherever you can buy, sell, trade, barter, or steal your favorite podcast. You'll find it. Also on YouTube. Once again, use that wonderful search bar. Search for Grappling with Canada. Subscribe to the channel. It's more of an audio program, but every little bit helps as we scratch, crawl, haul, pull ourselves, we'll say, to that wonderful 1,000 subscriber mark. So yeah, that'd be awesome. And you can drop me a line at 6sidepod@gmail.com. I read everything everybody sends.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. I really do appreciate you joining me for this conversation. This probably might be my favorite of the series so far, because we got to go into the weeds of the whole death of WCW side of things, but Hogan was such an integral part of that. We got to really promote your new book, the Nitro book. and just all that. So we still have one more part to go, and I know you're going to join me for that. It's going to be Hogan's grand return to WWF/WWE. So the years of 2002 to 2006. Probably won't talk about the TNA stuff, because really that's not what we want to talk about. We're talking
about there
great matches of Hogan, not the TNA matches.
Yeah.
But anyways, I hope you folks will join us for part 4. It's going to be uploaded shortly after this one. But until then, we will see you on the other side.